Welcome to Reborn Report. I'm Don Pfeiffer.
And I'm DJ Pfeiffer.
Today, we're going to talk about, is God real?
Yep, it's our second ever episode.
Does he exist?
We're back again.
You know, it's a question that is foundational, I guess.
Foundational.
Well, it's an important question for everybody would ask at one time or another.
Yeah, it's a very natural question to ask.
Right. And I think even our churches are full of people that go to church on Sundays that may still have question as to whether or not God is really real.
Before we get into the content of today's episode, I wanted to mention the amount of comments and messages I got for our first episode.
Okay, you can do that.
I remember when I first started thinking about doing this and how much work I knew it was going to eventually be. And I was kind of worried about that. But I remembered thinking to myself, if we could help one person, just one person, it'd be worth it. You know? And just from our first episode, I've received so many nice messages from people saying that we've helped them or that they're really excited to hear what we're going to say. So I just wanted to thank our audience for being so involved and actually listening and watching us.
Listen, with what's going on in the world today with the coronavirus and how scary that is, if you don't know or have a relationship with your loving Creator God, I know how scared I would be.
Yeah.
If I didn't have the relationship I have with God. It helps.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And so that's why we want to address this question in light of what's going on today. And we're praying for everybody. That's about the only thing we can do, what our listening audience can do. I believe in the power of prayer.
Or our watching audience on YouTube.
Yeah. Just pray. Pray to God. God's good. He's good all the time, and he knows everything. He didn't make this coronavirus. He hasn't caused this to happen. But I tell you, our faith in praying, in our belief that God is good and God's a healer can get us through this thing.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
There's supernatural power in that. I'm fully convinced of it. I've seen it enough in my own life.
I just wanted to start off by saying thank you to everybody. And I wanted to make sure that they knew that if they had any questions or comments, comment on YouTube.
Yeah, please do so. We appreciate it.
Message me. We love to hear from you guys. So we really, really would like to encourage you guys to message us.
Well, DJ, how do we know that God is real? And how would anybody find out? I mean, you're talking about somebody, you can't just go knock on their door. You can't do 1-800-GOD and call them up on the phone.
That would be nice, though, wouldn't it?
So is there any real proof? I mean, you know, the church in general takes a biblical approach to it, but to me, that's kind of a circular answering the question with another question. I mean, if somebody has questions if God is real, they're going to question the Bible.
Oh, no doubt.
So to use the Bible to prove that God exists,
which is what most people do.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but it doesn't help an unbelieving person.
Yep.
So today, I'd like to show some things that helped me, that helped you. Some simple scientific evidence that supports God's existence.
I mentioned in last week's podcast that you did in our church a Bible study about, or not even a Bible study, just a study if God is true, if God is real.
Right.
And this is some of the information that you went over.
And did it help you?
Yeah, of course it did.
Yeah, well, you're still here.
And I'm hoping it'll help our audience.
Right. And I want to do it without any of the blind faith religious statements like, you just have to believe.
Mm-hmm. Which is something that every one of us have heard at some point.
No, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to believe anything like that. So you see why we're not really big fans of religion? We believe religion is man-made, and with it comes a lot of different man's ideas, man's theories, and man's opinions. I mean, you'll never get away from all that. And don't get me wrong, I don't think religion is bad, but we'd like to focus on the point that God is reality, not just a religion.
Yes.
He's not a religion. He's the truth. The truth will set you free, the Bible says. So then, if God's real, we believe that science will support his existence.
Right.
After all, if you think about it, God has given us science to begin with,
Yeah,
right?
most people believe that like science and like God oppose each other,
No.
but it shouldn't be.
The reality of it isn't. Man opposes man with his opinions.
Yeah.
But if you just look at it
Own bias.
without religious colored glasses and without scientific colored glasses, you're going to see there's a lot of science that supports and validates God's existence.
Right.
So, but before we start that, DJ, let me say this when it comes to the question of God's existence.
Okay.
The Bible says in Romans 1, verse 19, that there are people who have seen significant evidence, but still refuse to believe because they have suppressed the truth about God. So, no matter how much evidence is presented, some people will just refuse to believe.
Right.
But on the other hand, if you really want to know if God is real, God says this in Jeremiah 29, verse 13, "You will seek me, and you will find me. When you seek me with all your heart, I will be found by you."
That's a powerful verse.
Yeah, that's right from the mouth of God himself.
Yeah.
So,
That actually reminds me, like, we're going to try to prove that God is real,
right.
but like you said, we can't do that for everybody.
No.
And just like nobody can prove that God is real and nobody can prove that God isn't real.
Right.
Because it's still up to free will.
Yeah, exactly. Every person has to make this decision for themselves.
Right.
And if you take the faith, if you say, well, I am of the Catholic faith, I am the Baptist faith, I am the Methodist faith, that's putting faith in a noun sense. And true Bible faith is a verb.
Mm-hmm.
Faith,
It's an action.
an action that shows what you believe.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So I believe if you just humble your heart and set aside your pride, your self-conceived or own ideas. A lot of people have beliefs and they don't even know why they believe that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times I've said to people when I'm having a conversation, I love to bring up the conversation about God with people, and I say, well, why do you believe, what do you believe in, and why do you believe that way?
I love listening to these conversations.
And a lot of times people don't have a real good reason.
Yeah.
I have some reason.
Right.
I have the Bible, which I don't put the cart before the horse.
We'll talk about that later.
Right. But I have some science that shows.
We will also talk about science in the Bible as well.
Exactly. There's a lot of science in the Bible.
Right.
There's science in the Bible that was in the Bible way before science discovered it.
Oh, yeah. We'll get into that. That's a very interesting topic, and I love talking about it. So we'll definitely get into that.
So we want to show some scientific evidence that supports the reality of God. Number one, DJ, for me, is our universe.
Great place.
Yeah.
Would recommend.
Scientists are convinced that our universe began with an enormous explosion of light and energy called
The Big Bang.
the Big Bang. Science explains that this was the start to everything that exists, the start of space, the start of time itself. The seed of everything that has happened in the universe was planted at that instant.
Mm-hmm.
Every star, every planet, the foundation for every living creature came into being as a result of that Big Bang event.
Right.
That's what science knows, and
It's what
science
most of
claims.
us have been taught in school.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Science knows that our universe had a start. That's what the interesting fact is. But science and scientists have no real explanation for what caused that sudden explosion of light and matter.
Mm-hmm. So what are you thinking?
Well, was it just a random chance happening? Or was it an act of an intelligent designer, God?
Well, I like option number 2.
Well, let me say this. Robert Jastrow, who was a leading astrophysicist, said this, and I quote, "In that moment of cosmic explosion, the universe flashed into being, and we cannot find out what caused that to happen." That's an interesting statement. Science knows that the universe operates by very uniform laws of nature, DJ.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, our Earth rotates in the same 24 hours. Gravity has remained consistent, and the speed of light has never changed. Why is it that the universe is so orderly and reliable? How is it that science can identify laws of nature that never change? You know, the greatest scientists have been struck by how strange it is that our universe is so orderly and reliable, and that it abides by the rules of mathematics.
You know, Dad, you ever hear of the second law of thermodynamics?
I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is.
Well, basically, it's saying that entropy, do you know what entropy is?
No. I think you're going to tell me, though.
I'm going to tell you. It's the scientific word for disorder.
Okay.
So the second law of thermodynamics is that entropy is favorable in our universe. Everything tends towards entropy.
Disorder.
So you'd think that if this law is true, that our universe itself would be disordered.
Right. And scientists are astonished by their very own recognition of that, DJ, that fact, that the universe doesn't have to behave in an orderly way. Mm-hmm. Considering the way it started with that Big Bang, scientists say that it's easy to imagine a universe in which conditions change unpredictably from instant to instant, with things popping in and out of existence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what the second law of thermodynamics would make you think.
Right. Well, Richard Feynman, a Nobel.
Yeah. He's a noble.
Well, he's a noble man, but he's a Nobel Prize winner. He said this, Nobel Prize winner in quantum electrodynamics, I might add. He said this: "Why nature is mathematical is a mystery. The fact that there are rules at all is a kind of a miracle."
Yeah.
Now, it's just my opinion, but just maybe it's time that these highly intelligent scientists accept the supernatural.
Accept God.
Accept God, yeah. What's wrong with that? I mean, after all, it's all explained in the beginning of the Bible in Genesis 1:1, right, TJ?
You want me to turn there?
Yeah. What's it say in Genesis 1:1, the very first chapter of the Bible? What's it say?
It says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." And later on, in verse 3, it goes on to say, "And then God said, 'Let there be light,' and there was light." Well,
Big bang.
Right there's the Big Bang. God said, "Let there be light." Bang.
Bang.
Light.
Yep. Well, but even if you don't want to accept and use the Bible, okay. But just look at this. The sheer complexity and uniformity of our universe would make logical sense in thinking that it would point to a deliberate, intelligent designer who created it and sustains it.
You know, there's a popular phrase that I really like. It takes intelligence to make intelligence.
That's that's just not a phrase. That's a true statement. Well, let me explain what we're talking about here a little bit, DJ. Science has known that our Earth is the perfect size, and its corresponding gravity holds this thin layer of mostly nitrogen and oxygen gases, and it only exists about 50 miles above the Earth's surface. Here's the thing. If the Earth was a little smaller, an atmosphere like we know it would be impossible, much like the planet Mercury.
And we know there's no life there.
And if the Earth was a little larger, its atmosphere would contain free hydrogen, like the planet Jupiter.
No life there.
No life there. So it's just amazing to me, the perfection of our planet. Our Earth is the only known planet that's equipped with an atmosphere of just the right mix of gases to perfectly sustain plant, animal, in human life. And our Earth is located, here's another thing, it's located exactly the right distance from the sun. If you consider the temperature swings that we encounter here on Earth, roughly minus 30 or 40 degrees to maybe 120 degrees.
I think it gets a little lower than minus 30.
Well, maybe in some places. I'm glad it doesn't get that low around here too much.
I feel like I felt that before in Buffalo.
When you're sitting at a Bills game.
Yeah.
But that warms you up when the Bills are playing. So, well, listen,
If they're scoring.
if they're scoring. Hey, they're going to win the playoffs this year.
All right, we'll see.
We're going to win the division.
We'll see.
Well, listen, if the Earth was a little further away from the sun, we'd all freeze. If the Earth was a little closer to the sun, we'd all burn up.
Don't want either of those.
No, that would be too good. Science knows that the slightest variance in the Earth's position to the sun would make life on Earth as we know it impossible. Also, while our Earth is maintaining this perfect distance from the sun, it also rotates on its axis at a speed of, listen to this, DJ, nearly 67,000 miles an hour.
It's pretty fast.
Allowing the entire surface to be properly warmed and cooled each day. What do you say about that?
Well, the crazy thing is that we don't even feel that speed that we're moving at. To us, it feels like nothing.
I never thought about it.
But also, you mentioned spinning on the Earth's axis.
Yeah.
Not only does it spin at this perfect speed, the tilt itself is perfect. It's about 23.5 degrees, but during the year it varies between 22.1 and 24.5. You know what the Earth's tilt does, Dad? You know.
Keep us from falling off?
Nope, that's not it. It creates the seasons.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So if the Earth's tilted and you're at the sun, you're the sun. If it's tilted away, that makes that part
So
cooler.
what happens if it was tilted a little more?
If it was tilted a little bit more, that would make the seasons more drastic. It would make the summers hotter and the winters cooler, and therefore life wouldn't be sustainable. Just like you said, with
we
heat.
see there is a range, so our seasons do vary.
Right.
But that's not a bad thing that they vary.
Right.
Right.
But we don't want them to
But there's no
vary
real
so much.
huge extremes.
Right.
You know, DJ, even our moon is the perfect distance from Earth for its gravitational pull. Science knows that the moon creates important ocean tides and movement in the water, which keeps our oceans from becoming stagnant and uninhabitable. All the fish would die.
You remember the movie Bruce Almighty
Oh, yeah. Okay.
with Jim Carrey?
I love Jim Carrey.
Yeah. You remember that movie, God Let Him
My
Be...
famous Jim Carrey movie is The Grinch.
Yeah. You remember, he let Jim Carrey act like... God let Jim Carrey act like God
Right.
for a couple of days.
Right.
And Jim Carrey was trying to make it romantic for him and his
Oh,
wife.
yeah, and he moved the moon closer to the Earth.
And then the
what
next
happened?
day he was watching the news and there were tsunamis across the Earth.
Well, you know, let's think about that. The perfect sized Earth, the perfect distance from the sun and the moon. I mean, there's too much perfection to say that this just happened from this cosmic explosion.
The universe seems perfect for human life.
Yeah, perfect placement.
Yeah.
The second reason why I believe scientifically that God is real, that he exists, is H2O.
2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen.
Water.
Polar molecule.
Think about water. It's colorless, odorless, and tasteless, yet there's no living thing that can survive without it.
Doesn't sound too desirable.
No. Plants, animals, and humans consist mostly of water, DJ.
Yep.
2/3 of our human body is made up of water.
That's right.
And here's the thing. The characteristics of water are uniquely suited for life.
How so?
Well, water has a wide margin between its boiling and freezing point, which allows us to live in an environment of these fluctuating temperatures that we just talked about, all the while it keeps our bodies at a steady 98.6 degrees.
Yeah, that's right.
Water is also a universal solvent. And what I mean is various chemicals, minerals, and nutrients can be carried throughout our bodies and into even the smallest of our blood vessels.
You know, Dad, I've taken many biology and chemistry classes and labs. And in every lab where we use chemicals, we always use water
Right.
We always dilute stuff with water. Every lab we use water.
Well, water is chemically neutral, meaning it doesn't affect the makeup of the substances that it carries.
Now, you don't mean its pH is neutral.
No.
You mean that everything is able to dissolve or dilute in water.
Right. Without
creating a reaction.
Without creating a reaction.
There are some chemicals that create reactions with water,
Right.
but nothing that's essential for life.
Right. Well, like our food and medicines and minerals, it carries all that stuff throughout our body, so our
Right.
body can use it.
Yeah.
Here's another neat fact about water. It has a very unique surface tension that allows it to flow upward in plants against gravity, bringing nutrients to the top of even the tallest trees.
You don't,
It
you
can
really
flow
don't,
all the way up.
you don't really think about how amazing that is.
No.
And
Try
you-
jumping and see if you can jump how high you get without coming back down.
For you, not very high. But you can see that if
I
you
can
just.
still beat you in a race.
I don't think you can do that.
I bet I can.
Well,
I'm 61 years old.
we might have to record that and put it on our
Wait a
YouTube
minute.
channel.
My legs feel a little heavier than they used to.
Well,
But my daughter Heather can testify. Justina challenged me to a race about 10 years ago.
yeah, 10 years ago.
Yeah, I am pushing older age now. I'm starting to enter the very beginning stage of the elderly.
You wouldn't say.
I can still beat in arm wrestling though. I did just a little while ago. Remember that? Go ahead, tell our audience.
I wasn't warmed up.
Well,
No, but you can see the surface tension of water. If you just take a napkin and put it over a little bit of water, it'll run right up the napkin.
yeah, that's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's just a small scale compared to a tree.
Right. Think about these big, tall redwood trees.
Yeah, California.
Water carries those nutrients all the way up to the top of them.
Yeah.
You know another neat thing about water?
What's that?
It freezes from the top down. And when it freezes, it then floats.
Ice floats.
Yeah, so water, when it freezes, the fish can live in the water in the winter.
Yeah. Not only that, you know what a specific heat is?
No, tell me what it is.
I Googled the definition. It's a lot longer than what I wrote down, but it's the heat that is required to raise the temperature of that object.
Okay.
So water specific heat is 4.186 joules per gram. Now that probably doesn't mean too much to you,
No, not really.
but that number, the specific heat, is much higher for water than any other common substance. Let me explain it to you.
Okay, go ahead.
If you have a piece of metal,
Yeah.
like sheet metal,
Right.
and you hold a lighter under it, heat it up,
He gets hot pretty fast.
it'll burn your hand just holding it.
Right.
But if you take a glass of water or something, or some form of water,
Light it underneath.
and heat it up, it takes a little bit for it to start heating up at all.
I never thought about that.
So, like, if you think of a large body of water, like a pond or a lake, for winter to freeze that water, it takes a long time. So the animal life that's under the water doesn't get shocked and die because it just gets
yeah.
cold instantly.
And that's exactly supports what I'm talking about, how water keeps our body at 98.6 degrees.
Yeah, I wrote that down. It says, when I searched the water specific heat, it says that the specific heat of water helps with temperature regulation.
Of our body. Like
Yeah.
we could be in minus 30, we could be 120 degrees, and sure, we get a little hotter or a little colder, but the water in our body helps regulate our body.
Because
and
of
keep
its specific heat.
Right. That's cool. And here's another neat thing about water. You know, DJ, that 97% of the Earth's water is in the oceans.
Yep. And most people think that's undrinkable water.
It isn't.
It is undrinkable. I mean, you could drink it, but you're not going to get hydrated.
No. But, well, I heard that once if you drink salt water, it can actually dehydrate you.
Well, yeah, the salt does.
Yeah. But on our Earth, thank God, there is a system in place, and it's a design system, which removes salt from the water, and then it distributes it throughout our planet. Listen to this, DJ. Evaporation takes ocean waters, smartly leaves the salt behind, then forms clouds in the air
Yep.
that's moved by the wind, and it disperses water over the land for
Right.
vegetation and animals and people.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible. It's a system of purification and supply that perfectly sustains life on this planet.
It's pretty crazy that perfect of a system wasn't man-made.
And here's another neat thing. It's a system of recycled and reused water over and over again. I mean, it never runs out.
Right.
Now,
especially if you think the Earth is billions of years old, you'd think the water would run out eventually.
Let me ask our listening audience and our viewing audience.
How are they going to answer?
Well,
I'll answer for
Let me
them.
ask this question, Deej. This perfect balanced system which sustains life, did that come about by random chance in the Big Bang event? Or was it designed by an intelligent God designing it for us as children?
It seems like that happening by random chance would be very...
Just keep writing the 0.0000.
Not very probable.
Come back next week, 0000.
Right.
I mean, the third reason why I'm fully convinced and persuaded and believe that God is real is our own human bodies, DJ.
Mm-hmm.
You know, science knows that the human eye can distinguish among 7 million colors.
It's a lot of colors.
Yeah. It has extremely fast automatic focusing capability, and it handles an astonishing, listen to this, 1.5 million messages at the same time.
It's a lot of messages.
1.5 million at the same time. Also, the human brain also simultaneously processes an amazing amount of information. Our brain takes all the colors, all the objects we see, all the temperatures around us, the pressure of our feet against the floor, all the sounds we hear around us, the dryness in our mouth, the texture of the things we touch.
Mm-hmm.
Our brain holds and processes all of our emotions, our thoughts, our memories. And at the same time, our brain is keeping track of the ongoing body functions, like our breathing patterns.
Yeah, if we had to think about breathing while we were doing it.
Look about our eyelid.
pass out.
What about our eyelid movement and our muscle movement?
Or our heart beating.
Yeah.
If you had to think about your heart beating, that would be very difficult.
It's starting to even tell me that I'm getting a little hungry. Well, think about all that.
Yeah.
I mean, our brain processes over 1 million messages a second.
Yeah.
Scientific fact. It weighs all the importance of all this data that's happening every second, and it filters out the relatively unimportant stuff.
Yeah. Like background noise. Like if you're sitting in a room and you hear the heater going, eventually you'll stop hearing it.
Right.
Or if you walk into someone else's house and it smells different, eventually that smell will go away.
Right. Because you're not focusing. Your brain's not focusing
or even
on
the
it.
clothes that you're wearing right now. You don't feel the clothes on your body. If you felt the clothes
you might have
on your
felt it when
body-
you first put it on.
Right. You know, there is like a disease where you like feel the clothes on you constantly.
Oh, really? That'd
Yeah.
be terrible.
I know.
You know, I got my leather clogs on right now, and they're comfortable.
Okay, continue.
My feet feel that. Well, anyway, DJ, the screening function that we're talking about, it allows us to focus and operate effectively in our everyday life situations. I mean, think about it. If all that millions of information didn't get screened out, the important to the unimportant, we couldn't function. We couldn't concentrate. We couldn't focus on anything.
Right.
DJ,
Yeah.
tell me now. Answer this question.
Okay.
Did all this highly complicated and detailed structure that's in our bodies just only evolve through spontaneous mutation and natural selection over billions of years? Or did our infinitely intelligent God make us in his likeness and in his image, as stating at the beginning of the Bible?
Well, I know I'm going to get a little bit ahead of you a little bit here, but I just wanted to mention, you talked about the brain processing all this information, millions of information every second.
Right.
But if you think about one individual cell in your body, and your body's made up of billions of cells, if you think of one individual cell, the amount of information in that one cell and all the processes that have to occur in that one cell to maintain life, that's just an overwhelming number in of itself. And then you multiply that by the billions of cells in your body, and your brain's controlling all of that.
That's more than I can fathom.
I'm starting to short circuit you.
You are. I mean, there has to be an infinitely intelligent creator God. It's just not explained by throwing more time and random chance and evolution at it. I mean, it's just.
We'll talk further about evolution.
Well, I'll tell you this about evolution right now. Evolution alone doesn't even fully come close to explain the start of living organisms from non-living matter, let alone the fact that science now knows this complex, detailed, intelligent information has been in place right from the start of life. You know, it's evidence and proved by our own human DNA.
You know, I know quite a bit about DNA. I've learned a lot in my genetics class.
It's the fourth reason why I know God's real, and one of the big ones. What's DNA stand for? Do you know? I don't know what it stands for.
Deoxyribonucleic acid. You know what that means?
I haven't a clue.
Well, deoxy, because there's one less oxygen than just ribonucleic acid, which is RNA. Have you heard of RNA?
Is that a nurse, RN?
Yeah, that's a nurse. No, but ribose is the sugar, and then nucleic acid are the individual nucleotides that are coded for our information.
Did you learn that in biology?
I learned that all throughout my biology classes.
Well, sounds like a bunch of good, useless information. No, I'm sorry. No, not really. But listen, you know, science now knows, I think they started really studying and understanding DNA in the 1950s.
Well, it was a long process.
Yeah, and
Watson and Crick.
They
stole studies from other people. You know that?
Well, you know, I know they're still learning about it.
Oh yeah.
To this day, scientists are still. It's so complex, and there's so much to it, as we're going to see here a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about it, but it's so complex. You know, science knows that our DNA code informs and programs a cell's behavior.
Mm-hmm.
You know, think about this. All instruction, all teaching, and training comes about with intent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, someone who writes
has
a purpose, an intent. Someone who writes an instruction manual does so with purpose, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if I buy this really highly sophisticated computer that does a lot of different things, the instruction manual is going to be thicker than if I buy a simple little plug and play device.
Right.
And that's why I don't buy complicated electronics, because I need a quick start page.
Yeah.
With pictures. Yeah. You can figure it out.
I normally, I mean,
I'm
a typical guy. I don't normally look at instruction manuals.
I grew up owning a music store, and I'm good with audio, but I don't know anything about video. So the video part of all this you had to do.
Yeah, it was quite a process figuring it out.
And how to record it and how to sync the audio and video together is beyond me, but I talk into the microphone. I'm a live sound kind of guy. But anyway, you know, someone who writes an instruction manual does so with a purpose, right?
Yeah.
Well, science has discovered that in every cell in our body, there exists a very detailed instruction code, much like a miniature computer program.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you know more about this than I do, playing Xbox 12 hours a day.
I do not play it that much.
Your mother would disagree. A computer program is made up of what? Ones and zeros, a bunch of them.
That's what I've heard.
Right. And the way they're arranged tells the program what to do, right?
Computer language.
Computer language, it's called. Very good. Well, the DNA code in each of our cells, DJ, is very similar.
Yeah.
As I'm sure you know.
Oh, yeah.
It's made up of 4 chemicals, and I know you know what those chemicals are, but that's irrelevant what they are at this point. But science abbreviates those chemicals as A, T, G, and C.
Adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine.
Somehow I knew you would tell me what those chemicals were.
Well, those are the nucleotides I mentioned before.
Nucleo who?
Yeah.
Okay. Has that anything to do with the ocean
No.
tides?
No.
All right. That's why I don't take biology. Well, anyway, what's amazing is there are 3 billion of these letters, chemical letters, arranged in every human cell. 3 billion of them in every cell.
Well, 3 billion in every cell. But those are made up or those are formed into chromosomes.
Okay.
You know what a chromosome
Right.
is. You've heard that.
I've heard the word before.
And chromosome is just basically compacted, wound up DNA.
Okay.
And if you unwind it and stretch it all out into one strand of long DNA, you know how long it is?
How long?
About 2.3 meters long.
No way.
2.3 meters.
In every cell?
Every cell. No, not even every cell. Every chromosome. And a chromosome wound up and put inside the cell is about 6 microns wide.
That's blowing my mind.
Not only does it fit in the cell, it fits in the nucleus of the cell, which is a small organelle inside of the cell.
Evolution better throw a few more billion years into that equation.
So,
That's like, that blows my mind.
yeah.
I mean, I can't even comprehend that there's that much detailed, intelligent information in every cell.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 3 billion lettered program instructing and telling our cells to act in a certain way.
Well, I mean, if you're taking a class and your teacher says, "Hey, can you write a 3 billion letter essay?" I'd be like, "No way."
I tell you what that is. That's a full instruction manual that I don't want to read.
Yeah.
No wonder science is still trying to figure out human DNA. There's just so much to it. How can that happen through mutation and natural selection? Better throw a few more billion years on it.
Yeah.
And here's another thing. I mean, how did all this information wind up in the human cells? These aren't just chemicals, DJ. They're chemicals that instruct.
Mm-hmm.
They're intelligent. They code a very detailed way exactly how a person's body should develop.
They code proteins that carry out specific actions that maintain life.
I guess here's the point. Natural biological causes are completely lacking as an explanation when this programmed information is involved.
Mm-hmm.
Simply put, you cannot find instruction and precise information like this without someone initially constructing it, designing it.
Mm-hmm.
So, DJ, is it the result
Let
of
me guess, you're
evolution?
going to ask another question.
Is it the result of billions of years of evolution or the design of an intelligent, all-knowing creator God?
Well, you know, Dad,
Which makes more sense?
in biology, DNA is...
I'm not cutting down science. Science has figured out a lot of
Dad.
stuff.
In biology and science, DNA is often called the language of heredity.
Okay, so what's that mean?
A language has to be created by someone intelligent. If you, like, have you ever seen have you ever
Like what
seen a
you said.
language?
Information comes from information.
Right. Have you ever seen a language that just happened to be evolved?
No.
If you see a writing, like cave
No.
pictures on a wall and some rock, you don't think, oh, this rock must have eroded in a
Yeah.
way that created these
I mean-
detailed pictures that have some sort of intelligence.
You-
Someone who was intelligent
Yeah.
wrote those down, created those.
It's kind of like looking at Mount Rushmore. Isn't that the mountain that has the president's head carved in it?
Yeah, I heard that they're going to put your head on it.
Well,
next.
hey, there's a lot of wisdom here. Listen, think about it.
Keep dreaming.
Who would look at that and say, erosion and millions of years in time carve that into those mountains?
Nobody.
No, intelligent. You can see intelligence. You can see the intelligent design. So you think
What are you looking at?
Well, Mount Rushmore's right over here.
Oh,
So because you can see intelligent design, then there's no reason to think about it anymore. Somebody designed it.
Well, we'll get much further into
Right.
evolution in future podcast
Well,
episodes.
there's DNA is a huge reason why the complication. You think about it. Okay, we got the universe, number one.
Yeah.
Perfect, structured.
Well, we're running out of time here, so we'll finish up
Yeah.
these last few points
Yeah,
that we've got.
Yeah, but so far we talked about the universe, how
Yep.
perfect that is. The Earth and the Moon and its relative position to the Moon and the Sun.
Perfect position.
Water, all the properties and
Perfect chemical.
in the way it, not only perfect in its composition, but the way it supplies. And
If you thought about water, like think about Earth without water and humans having to create it, it would be such a massive undertaking.
yeah.
It would take so much time.
Just look at that, the process that we talked about, evaporation and
Oh, yeah.
replenishing our planet with recycled and reused water. That's a system that's been in place on our Earth
Forever.
ever since man knows.
Yeah.
Well, and now DNA. There's
No,
four
our body.
our body. Oh yeah, our eyes in our
Our
brain,
brain.
the way that all functions.
Who was it that said that if you look at the human eye, you have to think that there's...
Well, that was Darwin.
Darwin said that.
But that was back in the 1800s. You know, when he wrote his book of evolution. That's why I'm so amazed why we still.
No, I didn't even finish what he said, though. Darwin said that if you just look at the human eye and how complex it is, then you have to...
that to think that it happened by evolution is absurd.
Absurd.
Absurd. Yeah.
You have to realize that
he
there's
said
some
that
sort
in
of creator.
He said that in one of his books. Well, but he was way back before they even knew what
DNA.
DNA was. There's so much science now in recent modern science. Man has become so smart with science and gone so far with science. The more we know about science, the more complicated
A lot of
it is.
scientists say
the
that...
more exact it is, the more precise it is, the more detailed it is.
A lot of scientists say that DNA helps prove evolution, but if you really study it out and look at DNA, to me, it just brings up more questions.
Well, it does because, I tell you the problem with science in general is science does not accept the supernatural.
Mm-hmm. Like you said in the beginning.
It doesn't accept that. And it's pretty hard to explain all this stuff without supernatural things happening.
But we have, 3 more points here?
Yeah.
2 more points?
A couple more.
Well, who knows? By the time we get through this, we'll have at least one more podcast.
Yeah, we're going to talk about we're going to continue
real.
this a couple more times, at least on our next podcast, Why God is Real.
We're just going to continue recording right now, but the podcast episode,
we're out of
part
time.
2, will come out
We're out of time for right now.
a week later.
So when do these podcasts, when do you post them?
This one that is coming out right now, or that we are recording right now,
Yeah.
will come out this Saturday at noon.
So you're going to try to have them all come out on Saturdays at noon?
Saturdays
roughly?
at noon.
Okay.
So stay tuned.
Hey, contact us, write to us, give us your questions.
We love hearing your stories.
Maybe a topic you want us to discuss.
Yeah, we'd love to have a nice question.
We're going to talk about
That we could
all
talk
kinds
about.
of stuff. Maybe even some football when football season comes.
Probably not.
No, you want to talk about the Bills?
No, we should talk about the Bills.
We're not far from Buffalo, so we love the Bills.
Yep.
Well, anyway, we just lost about 50 million viewers because not everybody's a Bills fan. Maybe we should
We have to have them first.
Maybe we should talk about Tom Brady and the Patriots.
No, then we'll lose all the Buffalo people.
We're going to beat them this year.
All right. So we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you for watching.
Make sure you use hashtag Reborn Report on social media. You can comment on the YouTube video. Make sure you check us out on Spotify if you just want to listen to us. Email us with your questions, like Dad said. Emails rebornreportpod@gmail.com. And we'll continue this report with you next week.
See you next time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.